Hey, what's going on, y'all? Falcon Edge here, and today I've got a fantastic video for you. Have you lost all hope in Rogue as a class? Well, say no more because I'm here to make you believe. I'm going to share all that illicit knowledge and show you how to play the most successful Rogue. We're going to go through perks, abilities, gear, and gameplay in 4K glory, just you and me, alright? We're going to make Rogues great again. Let's move on to the build. Alright, this build is based on hundreds of hours on Rogue, reaching Demigod, and trying different builds. I found only one successful way to play this class in solos, and it's viable at all kit levels. Any other build on Rogue, including the Hide Rogue, is going to sacrifice damage or get damage at the cost of another critical stat. After the build, I'll mention why Hide Rogue is so bad. For perks, we've got Jokester, Poison Weapon, Hand Crossbow, Dagger Mastery. Let's start with Dagger Mastery. First, this is free weapon damage. How much does it give? So here's some perspective on that. You can easily buy a blue Chris Dagger or a purple one from the market with +2 weapon damage. Using Chris Dagger as an example, it gives you about 4.5 points of weapon damage in addition to the Chris Dagger. Secondly, this is a ranged meta. Okay, so throwing knives are your bread and butter. This perk is going to boost your throwing knives weapon damage. Okay, so take a blue throwing knife, for example, that has 29 damage. With this perk, it becomes roughly 33.5 weapon damage. Okay, so incredibly strong, absolutely necessary and required perk. Poison Weapon. Alright, very underrated perk. This is more free weapon damage on the table. It has insane DPS potential if you keep your stacks up. Here's some perspective on the weapon damage. Let's assume your target has 20% magical damage reduction, and you've got +2 additional magical damage, which is fairly easy to get. This perk will roughly net you the equivalent of 2 to 3 weapon damage per hit on average. It does magical damage, but in terms of converting it to how much weapon damage is that's what it nets out to. Secondly, perk allows you to build damage into your kit without paying much money. All right, for example, it's very cheap to buy a +2 additional magical damage cape compared to a physical damage +2 cape, right? So at lower kit levels, you can throw on magical damage to get more damage into your kit. Hand crossbow. Other classes have way more tools than you do. Having this perk gives you another tool to outplay the enemy. That sounds simple, right? But take, for example, a rogue that runs out of throwing knives. Using a dagger with hide or smoke pot doesn't give you much strategy or pressure. All right, secondly, the crossbow is absolutely critical in initiating and starting off with poke damage. Your damage, even with all these perks, is still low in terms of melee damage. Okay, so you'll still need some form of ranged poke before you can commit close up with melee, and this is how you do it. Okay, you can get some really good damage using this with Rupture and Poison Weapon from a long distance. For the final perk, we've got Jokester. Okay, +2 all is incredibly strong. Putting perspective on this, it gives 2 strength. If you convert that, that is 2 physical power, which is roughly the same as a half a point in weapon damage. For the rest of the stats, you get 3 to 4 HP, some movement speed, and action speed, right? And rogues desperately need these stats, especially at a lower level. Out of all 4 perks, this is the only one you might be able to replace when you have a BIS kit. For abilities, Rupture is your only damaging ability, and you need the damage to be able to have kill potential. It's a low cooldown ability, allows you to poke insanely well with the hand crossbow. A typical 20% PDR target will net you about an additional 16 raw damage. If you don't have this on, you're throwing away that damage that you desperately need on Rogue. Your second ability, Smoke Pot. This ability is effectively the same as a fighter's sprint in every way. Everyone around you is slowed down by 10% movement speed, so in essence, you've got a 10% movement speed bonus on top of everyone else. Except, it's even better because it creates confusion and a cover that allows for defensive or aggressive plays with an insanely low cooldown. Even with the nerf, it's still an effective ability. All the nerf did is force you to have more movement and use it less often. Ideally, you'd use it once per kill. I do think Iron Mace should make it rechargeable, especially when you think about other equivalent abilities like Phantomize. That's also a repositioning ability that gives move speed, except it has unlimited use. Another huge advantage, since you're no longer using hide, you can use a lantern with +2 weapon damage and not sacrifice any movement from dual wielding, which is huge and absolutely necessary to get that kill potential as high as possible. All right, let's take a look at the gear. We'll start with the primary weapon. Chris Dagger is hands down the best dagger that you can use right now. And I'll tell you why. It has the highest attack combo damage by a long shot. Other daggers, like the Castilian, have a 50% boost damage on the third hit. With a Chris Dagger, the third hit has no bonus, but you immediately get a free fourth hit. The third and fourth hit together from a Chris Dagger is the same thing as a Castilian Dagger that gives a 100% bonus on the third hit. Not only does it have high damage, but it also has the best animation compared to other daggers. The Chris Dagger has 2 wide slashes on the first and second hit, plus a lunge on the third and the fourth. In addition, if you end up whiffing the first or second hit, the weapon is very forgiving because the last 2 shots are a double, so you could end up hitting that third and fourth hit in a burst. Let's talk about the other weapons that we have available. The Stiletto is way too low damage and it's way too hard to hit compared to the Chris Dagger. The Rapier. Here's some perspective on the damage between a Chris Dagger and a Rapier. An Epic Dagger with Dagger Mastery usually does slightly more damage than the same rarity Rapier. Let that sink in. Also, you need a lot of dex with the Rapier. One of the best things about the Chris Dagger is you do not need to build any additional dex with Jokester. For the offhand, always a lantern. You want to get +2 weapon damage. Since we're not using hide, we get to use this. It's another place to max out your damage at every corner with Rogue. Here's our hand crossbow. You could get one with 24 or 25 weapon damage, and then with +2 weapon damage. All right, for the gloves, we always go with riveted. Since the Rogue nerf on strength, your strength is way too low. So these are completely necessary. You could get the vigor gloves, but they would need a physical power roll. Okay, for the legs, always go with loose trousers with movement rolls. Padded leggings are the next option. Usually they're too heavy unless they have movement rolls. You can see I've got a movement bonus on them, so I'm willing to use them. So it works out here. For boots, you want to go with your Lightfoot boots with movement rolls. With a movement roll, rugged boots are too slow even with a movement bonus. For the headpiece, you always want the Shadow Mask. 1, because it's weightless, and 2, because of the stats. The rolls I try to get are +2 additional magic damage, or 4 to 5 physical power, flat or bonus. Quick perspective on physical power, 4% power bonus is roughly equal to 1 weapon damage, and that assumes you're already at 0% physical power bonus on your character. Okay, the cape is going to be the toughest. Usually with lower kits, I like to start off with +2 additional magical damage on a dex or will cape for a cheap start, and then as you get upgrades on armor, you can upgrade to an agility or strength cloak with +2 additional physical damage. Okay, for the rings, it's going to depend. I'm going to go over minimum thresholds that you should be aiming for. So if you need one of those, like movement or health, then you'd pick up a quickness or vitality ring. Otherwise, grab a strength ring. For the necklace, only one choice makes the most sense here, and that's a necklace of peace with +3 additional damage. Alternatively, and what you see me doing here, is using the next best thing, which is a frost amulet with a +6 additional health roll. So I would upgrade this to a necklace of peace with +3 additional physical damage. For utility, you're going to want to stack your throwing knives to take advantage of dagger mastery and poison weapon. These perks with your throwing knives make them incredibly strong. For the chest piece, you always want to target HP, either an adventure tunic or a marauders with an HP roll. Doublets are bad, they're too heavy. Wanderer's attire is okay, but you don't need dex. Alright, so all the gear that we just went through is to meet these minimum thresholds. The minimum thresholds that I target, I'd say a good minimum damage threshold would be to hit 60 raw damage on a training dummy with a headshot. That's when you're able to dish out a little flavor. For movement, I target 109% or higher, and that's because of the smoke pot nerf. Prior to the nerf, when smoke pot had unlimited uses, you could get this a little bit lower, but as it is, you need the movement to be able to avoid using smoke pot all the time, right? So you need that movement to be able to move around, escape without using smoke pot. For health, I'd target 110 or more. Your action speed doesn't matter with the Chris Dagger plus Jokester. It's one of the best things about Chris Dagger. The minimum power bonus you want to reach is at least 0%. Once you hit these minimums, I would target more damage and more health. And that's the Falcon Edge special, alright? Go get him, Tiger. Shake him down. Coming up, I've got gameplay of the build in action. So why is Hyde Rogue so bad? Hyde requires you to be able to two-shot, because if you can't, you're going to get one shot, or easily two. Basically landmine, right? So Hyde requires you to landmine. If you can't two-shot, it doesn't work. There is a way that Hyde does work in solo rogues. That's when you've got plus 11 additional physical damage, maxed out weapon damage, you've got stealth, ambush, the usual perks, and you've got dagger mastery for that extra damage. The last perk you're gonna need is creep, because good players will always hear you before you jump them. Getting to the point of being able to two-shot is extremely difficult, right? Like all those things I just listed out requires a really strong kit. And on top of that, you've got to have the Hyde mindset when you play. Personally, I'd rather run around with a more low cooldown ability like Smoke Pot and have more action. The last thing on Hyde, cooldown is way too long and it leaves you completely vulnerable. In a 1v1 situation, Hyde is very easy to bait, and once you do that, Hyde Rogue is an easy finish. Hopefully I get some rogue on rogue action gameplay for you guys. I can show you exactly what I mean, because a Smoke Pot Rogue will smoke a Hyde Rogue, hands down. Well, alright, I hope you're having a fantastic day. I know I'm excited for the wipe coming up soon. Enjoy the gameplay. Okay, so this is where usually there's another player spawn. And actually you can see through the door there, it looks like it's open. So I know there's another player there. I just don't know if he's right next to me or if he went in another direction. One of the first things I like to do is be able to see the type of class I'm up against, and right now I can't see this guy. And as a rogue, you're always 1 or 2 shots away from death, right? So you've got to be careful here. Okay, super unusual. There's even a mummy down there, or a zombie that is. So it looks like he went that way, but he also didn't hit off the gas right on the zombie. A good player would know that I also spawn next to this room, So, you know, it's really easy to think that there could have been somebody on the other side of the door that I initially opened, right? So... This man is long gone. Again, not sure what class this is. I definitely heard somebody there. You've got to figure out which class it is, right? Because if it's a hide rogue, you're pretty much dead if you enter that door, right? You've got to bait out hide. Yeah, it looks like this guy ends up not pushing me. Anytime you get pushed in this room, if you turn off the torches up top, like where I was there, you get a really good advantage. Alright, looks like we got nothing again. We're just fighting ghosts out here. Okay, we got somebody. Okay, that door is open, but he sounds like he's on my left. That's unfortunate. It was a gold-plated fighter. Looked like with Victory Strike. So even though we whiffed the first hit there, we still got the double third and fourth hit. We got a third adversary. And that's it. We had a really unusual start there where two people basically just like ran from us. That was really unusual, but we played that well regardless. So we definitely got a good haul. Okay, that 5 knowledge cape is going to go for a lot. The rapier's good. Definitely some of these purple rings I might keep. Yeah, here's kind of some of the items that you can see that we picked up. Pretty good haul, I'd say. All right, with that, thank you guys. I'll see you soon for another one. Falcon Edge, out. Peace.